All right, fall camp is here. And I don't mean almost here. I don't mean we're talking hypotheticals. I mean real football is happening this week. Pads are about to start popping. And now everything we've talked about and everything you've thought about all offseason, it finally gets put to the test. And this video is going to be your full preview. Everything that matters the next few weeks. This isn't a prediction. This isn't really a depth chart guess. This isn't a hype video. This is your fall camp checklist. The storylines, position battles, players with something to prove, players looking to bounce back, the reps that will decide who's on the field in week one and who's going to be performing for the maroon and white this fall. And yeah, fall camp obviously matters every single year, but this one feels a little bit different in Aggieland, and I think most of you guys can feel that. This isn't one of those years where you're hoping that someone emerges at quarterback. You're not begging for 5 serviceable offensive linemen. You're not patching holes left and right. This year, you've got Marcel Reed, your clear quarterback one. You've got a year 2 staff that is not working from behind anymore. You've got a roster full of upperclassmen, returning starters, real leadership all around. This camp isn't about scrambling. It's about sharpening. So the question isn't, can we survive? Can we build this thing from the ground up? The question is, how good can we actually be? Because let me tell you, there's competition everywhere, despite some of these established guys coming back. The wide receiver room is deep and wide open after a couple guys at the top. The D-line is talented, but, there's still a pecking order to sort out there and the back end of a rotation to build out. The secondary has experience, but now they've got to put it together. And that running back room might be nasty if everyone's healthy. There's clarity at the top, but camp is about sorting out the middle and the back end, finding your dudes, figuring out what combinations work. And for A&M, there's a lot of dudes to sort out. A lot of dudes you're really happy to have back. And building the identity of the team, that's going to carry you into September. So guys, thanks for being here. Like and subscribe if you like this kind of content. We just hit 3,000 subscribers. We're already hitting the next milestone running. We're trying to get to 4K this season, maybe even 5K. Be part of it. Help me out. I'm trying to grow this thing. I'm never going to stop bringing you content. Thank you guys so much for being here. And while you're here, comment. Which position group are you most excited to follow this fall? Which one's arc might determine where this team goes the most? Is it that running back room's health? Is it the receiver pecking order after Casey and Craver and Bussy? Or maybe it's the defensive tackle rotation because you got 3 guys at the top, but beyond that, sounds like a young guy's going to have to step up. What are you keeping an eye on? But anyway, let's get right into this damn thing. All right, let's start at the top. Marcel Reed, year 2. First year truly coming into the season as your go-to quarterback one. The thing has been built for Marcel from the end of last season to off-season workouts, spring camp, and now fall camp. He walks in knowing he's the guy. He's not looking over his shoulder. He's not wondering where he's going to get his reps. Marcel Reed enters with that established position on the team. He'll be looked at as a leader. He'll be looked at by young guys who are looking for guidance, especially on this offense. Young receivers, young running backs, other young quarterbacks. Marcel Reed is the main tone setter of this Texas A&M team this year. Because let's face it, a lot of A&M's success is going to ride on the shoulders of Marcel Reed. And I think maybe that talking point is a little bit overblown because there's a lot on this offense that can take pressure off of Marcel. But he's quarterback one. That comes with a lot of responsibility. I don't have to tell you that. We all know that. But I have some questions, right? What is the huddle like with Marcel Reed now? Is he commanding scrimmages? Is he working faster? Is he working harder? Is he more urgent now, knowing he's the guy from day one in the proving grounds of fall camp? Is he pushing the ball downfield with confidence and more knowledge of this offense and where people are going to be? Is he building young receivers up? Now, you could talk about his chemistry with this receiver room because I think that's a big factor going into the year because obviously it's a all new look group. Does he build chemistry early with Casey Concepcion? Because we all can anticipate, we all feel it, we all know Casey's the alpha of this receiver group. It's a young room, and Casey is the only upperclassman in that room. He's also the most proven commodity in the room. How does that thing work from day one? Now, Casey Concepcion seems like a hand-in-glove fit with Marcel Reed. Marcel, good in the short game, RPO. So the Marcel Reed that we got last year goes hand-in-glove with a guy like Casey or even a Mario Craver or even a Terry Bussey. But you got to build that out right now. This is where it happens. This is where you find that familiarity. This is where you find your go-to spots. As a coaching staff as well, we'll talk about Klein and this defense later in terms of coaching. But for now, it's about players gaining that comfort level because it's a full new look group in these pass catchers and in the quarterback being quarterback one in fall camp. What does the Marcel Reed centered offense actually look like? This is the first time it's been built around him because you have to remember last year, this thing was built on the fly. We flip-flopped between Wegman and Reed a lot before we finally established with Reed, and the thing finally started morphing into Reed's system. We saw that primarily in the Auburn and the Southern Cal games, where this thing was really RPO, really short game dependent. But unfortunately, you didn't have a Le'Veon Moss there to really put the cherry on top of that thing. So it was still kind of a wishy-washy deal where you weren't your full identity. Now you have it all. And this is your chance to build it here in fall camp. Talking more about those receivers, I mentioned Craver, Bussey, and KC. And I think we have a really good feeling that those three guys will get a ton of reps this fall, with two, if not all three of those guys starting this fall. But who else steps up? Could there be a sneaky guy that sneaks into that starting rotation we're not even thinking about? But you have options in this receiver room, and there are guys that could very well step up. I mean, we saw good spring games from ABR, Ashton Bethel-Roman, Isaiah Williams. And then there's this huge wild card in there. It's called Jerome Miles. And Jerome Miles has maybe the best physical attributes of anybody in that room. Now, obviously, he's coming off of a senior injury. He was able to run track this spring, and he's, full go in some of these off-season workouts. We've seen some video on his social media, and he looks really good at 220 pounds, 6'2". He's looking light-footed. He's looking agile. He's looking real healthy. And we'll see after these first round of updates whether or not he's full go, and I have a feeling he might be. But could he be the missing piece that this receiver room needs? Because you're lacking height. There's going to be some interesting position battles on this receiver room. And I know we have three guys at the top, and Craver, Bussey, and KC will play most of the reps. But I would not be surprised if someone else emerges and gets a damn near close share to those guys at the top two. And that's what camp's about finding out. That's what these coaches are evaluating. You have guys, but what's also the best combination of guys? What's the best unit? Because this is not just a team of individuals. Individuals make it up, but this is a team. And at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for this team. So who knows how this pecking order gets sorted out? I'd love to hear from you guys. Do you think it's just cut and dry? Craver, Bussey, Concepcion, starting three, and then build it out from there? Or do you think an ABR, a bigger receiver like Jerome Miles, can make it into this thing? I think they're all playing regardless, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch this receiver group. But you have to mention Amari Niblack in this group as well, because I think Amari Niblack's being looked at as basically a giant receiver for this team. I don't know how much inline blocking they're going to ask of him because of how versatile you are in this tight end room. A Nate Borkesher, a Micah Riley, a Theo Mellon-Orstrom. Those guys could be your inline tight end blockers. And I could see on third down packages, you go four wide, you have Amari Niblack split out wide in the slot. I could see that happening. I could see him being a big-time red zone threat. And this is a huge, huge fall camp for Amari Niblack. I mean, he's obviously been touted as one of the most talented incoming tight ends for a few years now, only to fall short of those expectations. Last year, Gunnar Helm happened, and that was just a great tight end. And before that, never found his footing at Bama as a younger guy. But now he's reunited with Coach Holman Wiggins. Wiggins knows what makes this guy go. Wiggins knows where to use this guy. He knows the skill set. And I think at 6'4", 240 pounds, this could be your red zone threat. And he has to go prove it this fall camp because you do have options at tight end. And who knows what a Theo Mellon-Orstrom can become. Again, we had a conversation about Demetrius Crownover. Long-term project, moving from tight end to right tackle in the college game, fully forming into that true NFL caliber tackle if he can have the year we hope he has. Long arc. Can you say the same thing about Theo Mellon-Orstrom moving up from Sweden football, where he was truly a receiver, not really asked to block much over there, but he has a blocker's build. He has a thick lower half. He's a big-bodied dude. I mean, this dude's a willing blocker, but it's that technique. It's the stopping lunging so much as a blocker that doomed him a lot last year. I think Theo Mellon-Orstrom has a huge fall camp to show that he's taken that next step as a blocker and more consistent as a route runner and pass catcher, because he's another guy that has all the physical attributes you could ask for. But I'm really excited about this tight end group, this receiver group, and we haven't even talked about the running backs. The running backs, health, and more health. Moss, Owens, Daniels, all coming off of injury. Who's cleared for full contact first? It stands to reason that Owens and Daniels will be cleared first, because in the last update we got from Mike Elko about a month ago, it sounded like Le'Veon Moss wouldn't be cleared until about halfway through fall camp, trying to keep the mileage off of that recovering knee for as long as possible. Won't be called upon in a huge way in the first two games. I'd imagine he has a bit of a ramp up in those first two games. Doesn't have to be the go-to guy necessarily in those two. You have really good talent around there with a good O-line in front of him. It's going to be all about balancing the reps needed to get ready for a football season, to get comfortable in the offense that's now built for Marcel. It might feel a little bit different, but to also keep mileage off of those, injured extremities, those guys that are coming back. So I think that balance is what it's all about in this running back room. I think that's the key for them, and I think this coaching staff knows it. And just innately with this room, the stable, you're going to rotate guys. No one's going to be out there for more than maybe 4 reps in a row, even in a primetime game scenario, even against LSU in the fourth quarter. They're going to sub out Le'Veon Moss for Amari Daniels if Moss is out there for 3-4 plays in a row. They're going to keep fresh legs out there. And behind this offensive line, it's going to work, especially if you have the leverage of all of those guys healthy, unlike what you had late last year. So how do they ramp up these guys? I'm really curious to see that. And we're just hoping, praying for health in the A&M running back room. That's one of the key points. Obviously, any fall camp, I don't even think I've mentioned it too much yet, but it's just health. The first time you get that, that one ping, that one, Gig'em 247, that first TexAgs update of someone going down with injury, that's losing the game of fall camp. And you can't control that necessarily. You can't avoid that. It happens. But you can certainly keep mileage off of these guys who are all recovering from injury, and I think they'll do just that. You also got to ease in some young guys. Morrow, Ryden. I'd imagine one of these guys will get called on at some point this year, whether it's due to injury, whether it's due to rest, whether it's due to just one of these guys forcing the coach's hands and having to play them. They're the future, and you lose probably 3 backs this offseason, maybe 4 if Owens has a great year, probably 3. Those guys are next up, and I'd imagine this team wants to get them at least a couple reps this fall. Camp will be about getting those guys broken in too. They already had a nice spring with a lot of running backs down and a lot of reps to go around. Same can be said about Ruben Owens. And Ruben Owens, big camp for him, man. He'll be coming in maybe as, running back 1 or 2 with Moss on the shelf the first couple of weeks. He will once again, just like spring, get premier reps within this offense, and he should be ready to go, especially considering his arc where he was ready to play late last season. And the offensive line to round out this offense. This is a group that I absolutely expect to be a tone setter this fall camp. There's no 2 ways about it. They get all 5 back. They have experience depth. They have leadership. They have maybe one of the best leaders on the team in Armajé Reed-Adams and Trey Zune. They have leadership off the bench in Ruben Fothery and Mark Naboo or Kulinu Feyu, whichever way you want to slice that cake. And that's another position battle maybe for center right there. Let's see what happens there. These guys are going to give the defensive line hell. And it's kind of funny. I was thinking about this. In previous fall camps, the grind that the offensive line, who is typically either lackluster or still trying to figure themselves out, had to go through going up against high draft pick talent dating back to like 2018, 2019, 2020, and especially in 21, 22, and 23. We had bad O-lines those 3 years, 21, 22, 23. And those guys had to go up against the Walter Nolans, the Shamar Stewarts, the Shamar Turners. They had to go up against the DeMarvin Leals, the Bobby Browns. They had to go up against the McKinley Jacksons. And now the script is flipped. You have continuity all coming back in that high-level offensive line. And this new-look defensive line this fall camp is going to have their damn work cut out for them. And it'll be iron sharpening iron. And I'm hoping we don't have to pull an Auburn here and have to have like the defense kind of laying back a little bit and let this offense get some work in, because that's what Hugh Freeze is saying is going on in Auburn. I hope we don't have that going on. But the D-line, they have a huge camp ahead because of what they lose, obviously. And I think we're all excited about the upside of this defensive line and what it could be even after losing those 3 high NFL draft picks. Regis and Howell, you're locked in guys in my eyes. I think those 2 guys are surefire day 1 stars, especially Howell. Regis, he's just solid, man. He's rock steady. And I think there could be another gear to Albert Regis's game, man. He's been around for so long. He retooled his body last year. Let's keep an eye on Albert Regis, guys. I think there could be another step to his game. He led the team in batted passes last year. He might be a smart player, a really just kind of intuitive, great anticipatory player on that defensive line. And I think that could serve him well, especially now with all these years of work dating back to 2021, where he played a lot of games as a freshman, all culminating in this year. So let's look out for Albert Regis, guys. I think he might be getting slept on a little bit as a guy that has some plus playability. But guys, I'm really excited to hear about this fall camp and then eventually see is Dayon Hayes, man. I think he could carve himself a starting DN role. Just really, really solid 2023 season at Pitt. I think he had 45 tackles, 10 tackles for losses, 4 sacks. Really, really productive player, and his size is perfect because you're not going to be a very bulky defensive end outfit this year, but at 6'3", 260, he might be the best strong side build you have. And he's an older dude. He's one of the last COVID eligibility guys around. He has the COVID year plus an injury redshirt, so he's like a 6th-year guy. He played like 5 games in 2020. He's been around forever. Mature guy to add to this D-line. You really love to have guys like that around. And then to round out the defensive end conversation, honestly, TJ Searcy could start at a bunch of SEC schools right now, and he might start here across from Cassius Howell, but I have a feeling it's Deion Hayes with that maturity. But TJ Searcy played his best game, his last game at Florida last year versus Florida State, where he had 5 tackles and a fumble recovery. And he's a guy who's been on the steady incline, the steady increase his last couple of years after his all-freshman SEC year in 2023. And he's a guy with a lot of bend. He's a guy with a lot of length at the defensive end position. I think he's a 255, 6'5 guy. That guy could be one of your third-round package dudes on the outside. But then you still have Marco Jones out there. You still have Rylan Kennedy out there. I'm real bullish on this defensive end group. I'm really excited to see how this pecking order goes. I'm really excited to see what kind of combinations they'll throw out there. I'm really excited to see what kind of rotation they have for this defensive line as a whole, because last year is a pretty strict rotation. It was a lot of your starters in Stewart and Scorton, a lot of Cassius Howell, a little bit of Rylan Kennedy, but beyond that, you didn't rotate that much on that defensive line. On the interior, you didn't go that deep. It was like Rodas Johnson and DJ Hicks, and then your starters, and that was it. I think you could see a lot more of a rotation, a lot more mixing and matching this year with guys like Onyedem, we haven't even talked about yet, with guys like Hayes, with a very versatile outfit and the defensive end group. I'm really excited to see the pecking order, how that goes there. And this coaching staff will be learning about their dudes, learning about where they're best utilized and how they can be used. Who are your run stoppers at defensive end? That's what camp is about figuring out. Who's your third down, pass rush package? That's what fall camp's about figuring out, because you got a lot of dudes out there. Defensive tackle, we just listed like 5 or 6 guys at defensive end. When you're talking about experienced guys at the college level. Defensive tackle, you have about 3 of them. So it contrasts quite sharply with the versatility and depth you have at defensive end. And this is maybe the biggest fall camp storyline of the season. You have Albert Regis. You have DJ Hicks, who has a pivotal fall camp ahead of him. Maybe the most pivotal individual fall camp on the team, because he's a guy that's gonna play. And he's a guy whose game, if it elevates, could have a huge impact on this team next year. Because I think we have a good feeling about what we're going to get from Onyedem. A really good spring game. Lighter-footed defensive tackle, but still a 300-pounder at 6'4". He played in a 3-4 defense at Iowa State. A versatile guy. Played some 5-tech, played some 3-tech. He can do a lot of things for you, but I have a feeling he'll be lining up mostly at 3-tech at A&M. You can pencil him in as your third guy in that defensive tackle rotation. And then beyond that, what's next? That's maybe the biggest fall camp question. Because in the SEC, in college football, you need at least 4 that can rotate, and you probably need a 5th or 6th guy just in case of injury. And, God forbid, one of those top 3 go down, you're going to be looking at a very, very young rotation. So I'm curious to hear from you guys who you think might be that 4th guy. And this was news to me. I figured this out when I was just, shuffling through the roster the other day. Dalen Evans is sneakily up to 310 pounds. I was not aware of this until I started looking player by player at this roster. He came in, or his last measurement in high school was 270. I think he was 285 when he measured as a freshman last year at A&M. And of course, that was coming off of a surgery to address an injury his senior year. So he didn't really hit the ground running his freshman year. But at 310 pounds for Dalen Evans going into his redshirt freshman year 2 in college, that certainly has my eyebrows raised. Because I looked at him as a guy that needed some years to grow into that defensive tackle position at the college level. In high school, relying on a lot of his athleticism and just kind of the mismatches he would generate with his size, agility combination. But if that agility transfers at 310, and he can generate a little bit more pop with those hands and get bodies off of him, this guy could be your 4th dude. And I don't think enough people are talking about Dalen Evans. I think a lot of people are just kind of skipping to the Landon Rink and Chase Sims and DJ Sanders, and that's okay. Those guys are great. What a hell of a 2025 haul. But let's keep an eye on Dalen Evans here in this fall camp battle, all right? I think that 310 is an encouraging number as long as he put it on mostly the right way. I understand at defensive tackle you're going to carry some fat. That's normal. You need some girth about you. You need some weight about you. But that certainly has my interest. So I'm looking at Dalen Evans here. We're looking at those young guys to round out this rotation, and I have a feeling you're going to want to play at least several of these guys situationally in the early portion of the year to see what you have in an in-game scenario. Certainly in fall camp, they're all going to rotate because these guys are next up. You're going to lose Regis. You're going to lose Onyedem. You're going to have to play some of these dudes. And I think getting them some reps now, and especially preparing for the injury, preparing for the worst right now, is the way to go. So I always looked at Landon Rink as a potential guy because I just think he has freakish athleticism at 280. I don't know what he's weighing now. They haven't updated the rosters for the most part from spring to fall, so who knows what Rink is at. And then I think DJ Sanders brings in just the quintessential SEC size for defensive tackle as a freshman. Now, who knows if the body maturity is there? Who knows if the strength is there to match the size? But that size will take you a long way at defensive tackle. So let's see, man. We're going to be looking at some young guys playing DT this year. But I would bet that those three at the top will get a significantly higher chunk of reps than the rest. You're going to lean on them a lot. But injuries happen in the sport, man. Those guys got to be ready. So keep an eye on that DT rotation. Keep an eye on those DT storylines, those snippets we get, because that's key to this team in 2025. Linebackers. York and Scooby are locked in, man. They're such an underrated duo, I feel. I think Scooby gets some... I think Torian gets some flowers. But I don't think enough people acknowledge what Scooby went through last year. We just found out, played with a torn meniscus all year, and he still got better and better and better as that year went on. And I think the same could be said about Torian York, because we talked about how Torian kind of started the year shaky, out of position sometimes, behind plays sometimes. And I think part of that was a byproduct of not playing next to the absolute ground coverer that was Edgerrin Cooper. But I think as he gained that comfort level with Scooby and gained that trust in Scooby, and quite frankly, as Scooby just became a better player over the course of the year, I think that really opened things up for Torian York. Because I look back at that 2023 team, and I really think York and Scooby played off of each other. York and Cooper played off of each other really, really well. I think they complemented each other so well. Because I think York, as a freshman, took a lot of the cerebral aspect of the game, of the position, of the play calling, out of Cooper's hands. And Cooper could just go play football. And York, not the best ground coverer, Cooper could make up for that. And I think we got a lot of that as Scooby gained comfort last season. And I think they're going to have that synergy in camp. And they're going to be an absolute tone setter for this defense, just like the O-line was for the offense. So I'm really excited to see that duo and what they can become this year. It starts with them just picking up where they left off this fall camp. But the real question for linebacker is what happens behind them. The good feeling Damian Sanford's going to take a level up this year. Played a lot last year, took some lumps for sure, some bad angles, some missed tackles, but he's a ground cover in his own right. He's a very athletic linebacker, and he had trial by fire last season where he was the linebacker with the third most amount of reps on the team, and that experience absolutely counts for something. And now, off the bench, you lose the experienced guy that was Solomon DeShields, and now you're looking at a very, very young linebacker group beyond the guys at the top. Now, Damian Sanford is a college junior. He's going to be a redshirt sophomore, and that's a lot of experience, a lot of weight room time under his belt now. I don't really look at him as a young guy anymore. But you're probably going to need a fourth guy to play, and if you're gearing up for the future, you might want to get a fifth guy some reps too. And I'm looking at Tristan Jernigan and Jordan Lockhart to be those guys. And these are two guys that I've been enamored with since they got onto campus. I love their high school tape. I love what they can be at the college level. Of course, workout videos are only one thing. It's only one tiny metric in the whole story that's to be told. They both look amazing. Their bodies look matured. Probably one of these guys, but maybe even both of these guys will have meaningful moments in 2025. But it all starts in fall camp. You know, if there is a battle there, if there's going to be one and not the other, that gets decided in fall camp. But I personally want to see both. I think they're both worth playing. I think they're both worth getting their reps here and there. And I think maybe if you get into a tight, locked-in game, then you maybe pick one that's performing the best between the two. And you still have Noah Mikael there. And if he's able to find a way to playing time this year when you have those two upperclassmen at the top, I mean, kudos to him. I just think that he's going to be more of a project. He'll be a next-year guy, and he'll be depth this year. But who knows, man? This coaching staff really likes Noah Mikael, man. He had a good spring game, too. So linebacker, I feel so good about. I think mostly getting over that early hump with these young guys. And you really don't, never want to see injury. But right there is a big experience, drop off after the three guys you have at the top. So losing one there would be kind of painful. Whereas if you have depth, at other places, like running back, you have depth. Offensive line, you have experience depth. DB, even there you have some good depth. And those guys have experience too. But at linebacker, one of your top dogs goes down, you're looking at a big experience drop-off. So it's crucial to get some of those guys work early and have a great fall camp. And then that leaves us with the secondary. And if defensive tackle is one of the biggest storylines, maybe I jumped the gun there because I think DB might actually be a bigger storyline. So I'm just going to retcon that. Screw you, Drew. Look, man, they're all back. You have the same secondary as last year. You didn't rebuild it in the portal. Last year you did. You're not relying on freshmen. Last year you did. You're not wondering who the guys are. Last year you did. This unit was too inconsistent last year, especially for the amount of talent I felt we had out there. Can they clean it up? Is this the best version of Bryce Anderson we'll get yet? because that moved back to safety last year, and by reports, playing most of that year injured. Can he regroup? Can he become the Bryce Anderson we saw in his underclassmen years? As a freshman off the bench behind Antonio Johnson. As a nickel his sophomore year that was a game wrecker. Really, really promising stuff that sophomore year. But last year, moving to safety, new position, new playbook, new scheme, new language, he suffered. And I'm looking at him as a senior leader on this team to take that step this year. And I expect it from Bryce. I don't know about you guys. I expect the bounce back from Bryce Anderson. Does Dalton Brooks look like the breakout player that I and many are anticipating he will be? He might have the best NFL measurables and physical attributes on the defensive in the defensive backfield. Can he clean up those coverage busts? Can he be where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there in zone defense? Can he avoid eye candy? Can he not be susceptible to play action? Because we know the physical stuff, the tackling, that is so there for Dalton Brooks. It's about cleaning up all that coverage stuff. He has maybe the best blank canvas to work with in this DB group, and I'm so excited to see him and to hear him, take that starting safety position and running with it. I expect that from him as a junior now. Now, is Des Ricks going to hold his own against Julio Humphrey? Because that is one of the, if not the most premier starting position battle on the team. I'm trying to think through it. Is there a more clear-cut one-on-one position group battle on A&M's football team in the 2025 fall camp? I think not. I think Des Ricks, Julio Humphrey is the battle you're looking out for. Because Julio is already an established player. Had some good stuff at Georgia. He's a veteran dude you're bringing into this room. And I honestly think whatever comes of that battle, they're both going to play. And I think Des Ricks will be so much better by having that battle this year. Because last year, he had to play. Because even Javen Thomas, a guy who was kind of on a longer trajectory in terms of his development, even he was down with injury. So you had to play Des Ricks long stretches in games, more so than you probably would have wanted to for a guy that young. And that could have been the case this year again, regardless of where Des Ricks would have ended up this fall camp. But now he has that urgency of the competition. And now he has that older guy to look up to and learn from in this battle. So I think they're going to shuffle a lot. They're both going to play. Whoever starts, I think they're going to be pretty close in total snaps on the season. And I think this is going to be so big for Des Ricks. And I think Humphrey's an absolute floor raiser for this football team. And then you have your established guys. Will Lee. He was already going to be a draft pick if he went last year. Can he play himself up to a high round pick this year? He's your lockdown corner. He's going to go up against every wide receiver one you see in the conference. He is the guy. He is the blanket, Theo Weiss. There should be a lot of fun to watch him, and now he's taken on that leadership role. It seems like a very intentional effort from Will Lee to take on that leadership role. It seems like he wants that, being at SEC Media Days, really representing the team well, like the Torin York level of just responsiveness and quickness in his responses to questions, to fielding media questions. I thought it was really good stuff from Will Lee, and I think he loves it, and I think he wants to be that guy for this defense. And I think the secondary is full of leaders. They just underperformed last year. You look at Bryce Anderson as a leader. You look at Tyreek Chappelle as a leader, at least by example. I know he might not be the most vocal guy, but he can lead by example. You look at Will Lee as both a lead by example and vocal guy. You look at Dalton Brooks as an upperclassman now. Julio Humphrey bringing in veteran experience from Georgia, the Kirby Smart system. Speaking of Tyreek Chappelle, health, where's he at? Because we know, we saw it, and we were told the entire fall camp last year, he was a game changer in the secondary. And losing him alone, and the ripple effect of moving B.J. Mays there and not having B.J. Mays potentially to play corner at times late down the stretch of the season, I think that whole ripple effect was huge in this secondary shortcomings last year. You get him back. Can he stay healthy? Can he be himself? Because if he's at nickel, Will Lee's at corner. You got Des Ricks, Julio Humphrey. You got a nice safety battle. Marcus Radcliffe's out there too. Marcus Radcliffe's a big physical safety man, but he's not the fastest guy. He needs to be really minding his P's and Q's in his anticipation of plays, reading plays, being on his assignment to utilize his really, really good skill set to the fullest. And that's just being a physical, at the line of scrimmage safety that can really impact this running game. I'm looking at this group as a group that just needs to come together this year. Can communication increase? Who's setting the tone in practice? And I think they all can do that, but someone has to step up and lead by example as well. I'm really excited for this DB group. And we haven't even talked about the depth pieces. I think Miles Davis is a guy that I wouldn't be surprised you're looking down the tail end of the season. He's just getting more and more snaps every game because the coaches just can't help but play this guy because of what we've seen in glimpses and, quite frankly, what these coaches have spoken about him. You still have Javen Thomas there, year 3 for him. This is his fall camp to show what he's been working on these last 2 years. Can he mature? Can he level up? I think there's a chance he does. A guy like Bravion Rogers has been right there waiting in the wings at nickel. Trial by fire in that Oklahoma State bowl game 2 years ago when that safety and that DB group was very much piecemealed, lost a lot of guys to the portal. He played a lot and he took his lumps there. But now he's a mature guy. Now he's a junior. Now he has that experience behind his belt. Can he find his way into this rotation? You brought in Jordan Shaw from Washington. I could see him being the dime. I could see him rotating at nickel. I could see Jordan Shaw being a plug-and-play guy at several areas, at least as a rotation piece. Same could be said for Bravion Rogers. That's another interesting battle. This DB room has experience, depth, upperclassmen. It just needs to play better, and that starts this fall camp. And then you got to see how this defense plays differently with Mike Elko taking a more hands-on approach with it. I mean, we've been told time and time again, Elko's more hands-on. Elko's calling plays now. This will be much more Mike Elko-oriented and maybe a little bit less Jay Bateman-oriented, although I believe it was truly always Elko's defense. I think some of the smaller, minute details were in Jay Bateman's hands, maybe the stunting by the defensive line, maybe some of the communication stuff is different this year. I expect everybody to benefit from getting into this year too, and also from having Elko be more hands-on, because we saw the Mike Elko defense here in his stretch at A&M from 2018 to 2021, and that thing got better and better statistically every single year. And I expect that kind of jump from the secondary and beyond in this defense this year now under Mike Elko. Now this fall camp, just as it's about players making names for themselves, just as it's about, hammering out position group battles and finding your pecking order and finding your dudes, I think this is a trial for Mike Elko as the play caller on this defense, if that is indeed what is going to happen here. Because you think about what we went through under Jimbo those last few years, we felt like Jimbo being the play caller on offense led to a little bit of oversight for the team as a whole. Maybe some game management miscues because your head man was too focused on the micro and not focused on the team as a whole. Maybe some substitution issues, maybe some clock management issues, maybe some organization issues, special teams, getting players onto the field. Will that stuff suffer under Mike Elko since he's calling plays now? I have a feeling Elko will be a little bit more intentional and organized with the way he goes about this. But fall camp's where he gets those reps under his belt. You think in scrimmages, Elko will be, being very cognizant of that aspect of what he's doing? I think he will be. And I think that's part of this fall camp, just as it is for these players, learning their place in this team. And I think by the time you're in the latter scrimmage, where you're really just doing like a simulated game atmosphere, I think Mike Elko will be keeping his distance from the team and really just calling plays and doing what he has to do as the head coach, who is also the play caller. So that's something I'm certainly watching. And of course, a lot of continuity in this coaching staff. They just get the luxury of picking up where they left off. That is the luxury of year 2. Typically in a year 2, minimal coaching turnover. In some cases, you lose coordinators. In some cases, you lose position coaches. Didn't happen at A&M. Everyone's back. So you're just dealing with a couple of new things. But for the most part, it's all the business as usual. It's all the same. And that's going to benefit this team so much. And we'll conclude with the offensive side and the coaching there. This is a really, really big year for Collin Klein. He's looked at as one of the best up-and-coming offensive minds in college football. This is a year where he has every tool he could ever ask for. He has the offensive line, which is just your stabilizing force as an offense. He has a quarterback one who can do exactly what Collin Klein wants to do with his offense. He has a whole running back room full of veterans and high-end players. He has a very versatile and interesting receiver and tight end room. You have a lot of specific skill sets out there. You have your Jerome Miles, who could be your big jump ball threat, your field stretcher, your rangy guy. You have your slot guys in Mario Craver. Casey Concepcion's a slot guy. You have your gadget guy in Terry Bussey. You have your huge body receiver in Amari Nyblack. What's he going to do with all these pieces? How's he going to organize it? How's he going to best utilize the individual skill sets on his football team? How is he going to put them all in a position to succeed? And I think he has a really good chance to do it. I think it'll all be stabilized by that running game and that offensive line, and now a veteran quarterback. But we got to see it from Collin Klein. And this fall camp will be all about figuring out his spots, figuring out which dudes are most comfortable where, figuring out which scenarios do you use XYZ player or XYZ play in your playbook. Figuring out your red zone stuff. Is Amari Niblack your go-to red zone guy? Do you pull in a Jerome Miles in the red zone situation? Do you just go with 3 smaller receivers as your base package for most of the game in Craver, Bussy, or Concepcion? Or are you going to actually start a bigger guy just to get a bigger body out there? There are so many ways Collin Klein can go with this offense, but one thing's for sure. He has weapons. He has pieces. He has versatility. No excuses this year. Collin Klein has a wealth of riches which to work with this year, and I expect him to do that. I expect him to build an awesome offense, and I expect to have a top 30 scoring offense this season. I think you were about 50th last season. So guys, that's what I'm looking at this fall camp. This is a longer video. We went in depth here. It's because I'm so excited that football's back, man. We're about to see the video where the players run onto the field. You know what I'm talking about? We're going to see that. And it's going to be so badass, man. We're going to see players jumping around. We're going to see Torin York just barking at his teammates. We're going to see Will Lee talking up the secondary. We're going to see Marcel Reed out there as the leader, as quarterback one. They're all going to take the field here this week, and it is so, so exciting. And that's why I wanted to go in depth with you guys today. So again, I ask you, what position group are you looking at most closely this fall camp? The feeling it's going to be safe, a lot of secondary. It's going to be a lot of defensive tackles, but let me know specifically what you're looking for. I'll try to respond to as many of you as possible, guys. Thanks for being here, guys. If you could drop a sub, that would help me so much. I'll see you very soon in the next one. We'll go live Tuesday night. We'll talk more about fall camp. I'll see you then. Gig 'em.